Thanks to Wispr Flow for sponsoring this video.
Can you explain what internet is?
Did you hear about the 19-year-old kid who lost a lawsuit to Metallica and then spent the next decade quietly dismantling the entire music industry from the inside? Now this guy's name is Sean Parker, and Sean is 19 years old in 1999 when the story starts. He grew up in Virginia. Pretty smart dude. At 16, he won the state science fair for a web crawler he wrote in his bedroom. And he was so good, the CIA took note and tried to recruit him out of high school. He turned them down, and by his senior year, he was making more than $80,000 a year writing code for startups. Now here's the thing about Sean. Years earlier, when he was 15, he met another teenage hacker in an IRC chat room named Sean Fanning. And they bonded over physics and breaking into things they weren't supposed to break into. In early 1999, I'm just gonna call him Fanning because too many Seans. Fanning calls 19-year-old Sean with an idea. Fanning is a freshman at Northeastern. He's been writing a piece of software that lets you search every other person's hard drive on the internet for music. Find a song, click, get the file, done. Fanning calls it Napster. Sean, having a bit of a business sense, raises around $50,000 in seed money just with phone calls. June 1st, 1999, the software launches. And within weeks, Northeastern's network is melting. Within months, Napster's traffic is up to 61% of all internet bandwidth at colleges. By early 2001, it peaks to 80 million registered users. And for context, how big that is, AOL at the time, the biggest paid internet service in America, had about 30 million subscribers at the same time. Napster, a piece of software that did not exist 20 months earlier, had more than twice that. The fastest growing piece of software at the time in internet history. Two teenagers in a San Mateo office were running it. To understand why this matters, you gotta look at what the music industry looked like in 1999. If you wanted music, you had to buy a CD, and it cost, let's say, 18 to 20 bucks. If you wanted one song, you couldn't buy it. You had to buy the whole CD. The American music industry made $14.6 billion that year. That was the biggest year in their entire history. They had an iron grip on distribution. And these two teenagers in a dorm room flipped that entire model. 80 million people weren't buying CDs anymore. And this story is about to get wild. But I do want to take a quick sponsor break to keep the lights on. Every voice to text kind of tool you've probably ever seen captures everything that you say, including the ums, the uhs, the half sentences, the time you change your mind halfway through. And a lot of those things you end up spending more time cleaning up that transcript than you would have just typing the whole thing. And there's a lot of options for voice recording. So today's video sponsor, Wispr Flow, totally different. You hit the hotkey, you speak as a normal human being would, and what shows up is clean formatted text that is ready to send. No ums, no uhs, the filler words are taken out, no weird punctuation, it just figures out what you meant and then types it out for you. It also has integration with everything. So Slack, Gmail, Notes, Claude, ChatGPT, iMessage, Mac, Windows, iPhone, Android, whatever. It is really, really good. So let me show you what I mean. So here's one that I actually use constantly, email. So I'm gonna reply to this thread right now by just sort of talking. Hey Mike, thanks for sending this over. Had a chance to look through everything and I think the direction is solid, but I do wanna flag a couple things before we move forward. Specifically around the timeline on deliverables and how we're handling the approval process on our end. I hate to say it, can we jump on a quick call Thursday or Friday this week to align? I'll be flexible on time, just let me know what works. That whole email, formatted professionally, ready to send, and I didn't touch that keyboard once. Same thing works in iMessage, just hit the hotkey, talk, hey, you good for Saturday? I was thinking we could do dinner around 7 at the new Din Tai Fung at the Spectrum. They take reservations, so I can book it now if you're in. Just let me know. Nailed the restaurant name, got the details right, reads exactly like how I would actually text someone. And that was the part that got me. It sounds like you, and that's the whole thing that people miss. It isn't just about removing ums and uhs. It's that you actually think faster than you type. And when you can just talk, you get more out without feeling like work. Wispr Flow keeps up with how your brain actually moves. If you want to grab 1 month of Wispr Flow Pro for free, I got the code down below. If you do any dictation or want to sort of supercharge your workflow, check out what Wispr Flow is doing. Okay, so by early 2000s, labels know exactly what Napster is. Physical music sales, so in this case CDs, are dropping for the first time in about 2 decades, and the labels start scrambling. But this isn't a label that fires the first shot. It's a band. April 2000, Metallica is recording a song called I Disappear for the Mission Impossible 2 soundtrack. It has not been released, it has not been promoted, it has not been finished. And then their drummer, Lars Ulrich, hears it on the radio. 20 different stations across the country started playing his unreleased song. He traces it, the leak goes back to Napster, and his exact reaction on the record was, quote,
"Well, if they're with us, we'll with them."
Metallica hires a firm called NetPD to monitor every Napster user trading their music. The firm comes back with a list. 335,435 names, 60,000 pages long. They printed all 60,000 pages, and on May 3rd, 2000, Lars personally rolls up to Napster's office in San Mateo with the entire 60,000 page printout in the back. The press is there, so are crowds of college kids who somehow heard he was coming and showed up to scream at him. San Mateo police had to come to manage the crowd. Sean is watching all this from across the street. He throws a hoodie on and goes outside to watch the spectacle. Lars hands the box to Napster's lawyers, gets back in the SUV, and drives home. He thinks he had won. He had not just won, because millions of people had just watched the most famous drummer in metal try to get them banned from the service that they used every single day. And it got so bad for Metallica, a Flash animation studio, pretty popular at the time, called Camp Chaos, dropped a series called Napster Bad, with animated versions of Lars and James Hetfield grunting about money in kind of monosyllables. And it went viral. People are still quoting it 25 years later. So Lars is no longer just suing Napster. The people who use Napster are getting involved in this lawsuit as well. And Lars has become the punchline of the entire internet. And while this public spectacle is playing out, Sean is about to lose his whole company. And this part was crazy to find out. In May 2000, the Recording Industry Association of America, the RIAA, the trade group that represents every major record label in the country, has been suing Napster since December. And one of their lawyers has been going through every single internal Napster document they were forced to hand over in discovery. And he was looking for a smoking gun. And he finds it. An email Sean had sent to Fanning months earlier. The co-founder, the business guy, the one whose entire job it is to make a case that Napster's legitimate search service, has written in his own words, quote, "They see that we're not just making pirated music available, but also pushing demand." That email again, the smoking gun. Napster's entire legal defense in all of these lawsuits rested on the single argument that they have no idea what users are doing on their service. They're just a search engine. And here is one of the founders, in writing, in plain English, admitting they know exactly what's happening on the platform and that they're happy about it. Sean went on to say years later that some of the things he wrote as a teenager are now in law school textbooks as cautionary tales. The Napster board pushes him out. He's 20 years old. He just helped build the fastest growing piece of software in internet history, and he is unemployed, sleeping on friends' couches in California. 2 months later, in July 2000, Lars testifies before a United States Senate Judiciary Committee and compares Napster users to shoplifters. At that same hearing, Ms. Alanis Morissette gets up and tells senators that Napster is actually helping artists by driving ticket sales and merchandise sales. The room turned on Lars, and by the end of the hearing, the public had turned on Metallica. 2 months after that, at the MTV Video Music Awards, Sean Fanning walks out on stage to introduce Britney Spears wearing a Metallica shirt. Someone backstage asks him about it, and he says with a total straight face, quote, "A friend shared it with me." The lawsuits keep coming too. Dr. Dre joins Metallica. Other labels pile on. In July 2001, federal judge ordered Napster to filter every copyrighted song off the platform. That filter didn't work. It couldn't work. Napster shuts down its free service that summer. In June 2002, they filed for bankruptcy. The assets sell at auction for about $5.3 million. The music industry has just won. They got the kid. They got the company. They got the precedent. Lars got his wish. But here is what the labels don't understand yet. Napster is dead. But Napster spent 2.5 years teaching 80 million people exactly what music software is supposed to feel like. Search any song, find it instantly. Get on your computer in seconds. The labels just spent millions of dollars killing the product. They have not killed demand. And somebody is about to fill that hole.
We decided, since no one else was doing this, that we were going to do it. And we started about 1.5 years ago to create a music store.
Enter Steve Jobs. April 2003, Apple launches the iTunes Music Store. It's the Napster music experience with a payment system. Single songs instead of full albums. Instant search across your catalog. Direct delivery to your computer. The only thing Jobs added was a way for labels to get paid. Now, Jobs sits down with the head of every major label and uses Napster, the company they just had spent 2 years burning to the ground, as his pitch. He tells them Napster has shown the world what people actually want. And I'm generalizing here, but the labels are really too exhausted to keep fighting this. They see the future coming and they sign. Within 5 years, iTunes is the largest music retailer on the planet, bigger than Walmart, bigger than Best Buy, and Apple taking 30% of every transaction. That's the first half of the story. The second half is sitting at a computer in Sweden. So this is Daniel Ek, and he was 16 when Napster launched. And Daniel loved it. He used it constantly. He said later he was infatuated with it. And after Napster died, Ek did the same calculations Steve Jobs did. He realized you cannot legislate piracy away. You can't sue 80 million people back to a record store. The only way to fix the music industry is to build something that feels exactly like Napster, but legal and has a way to pay the artist. He calls it Spotify, and it launches in Europe in 2008. And then Sean comes back. Same Sean Parker the labels destroyed. Sean, who in the years in between had become the founding president of Facebook, and was now sitting on hundreds of millions of dollars, and was made famous in the Social Network movie. Sean had never let go of what happened at Napster. He had been waiting. And in 2009, he sees Spotify and sends Daniel Ek a cold email that opens with, quote, "I've been playing around with Spotify. You built an amazing experience." The next year, Sean writes Spotify a $15 million check. Then he gets on a plane. Can you imagine how he felt doing this too? He walks into Warner Music. He walks into Universal, the same labels who personally helped get him forced out of his own company a decade earlier, and he himself helped negotiate Spotify's American licensing deals using contracts he made when he was 19. Spotify launches in America in July 2011, and today it's worth $100 billion. Napster's assets 2002 again sold for $5.3 million. So, and here's the kicker. In 2026, so this year, streaming accounted for 84% of all recorded music revenue in the US. The labels are making more money than they have in 20 years. Lars Ulrich, asked about the lawsuit on Reddit a few years later, called it, quote, more like a footnote. The kid in the music industry student to bankruptcy came back 9 years later and helped fund the company that owns how pretty much everyone listens to music. So, to that story, and to Sean Parker, and to everybody involved in the Napster early days, mission accomplished.